I am the last ghost in a town that forgot its own name 50 years ago. Everyone I ever loved has gone to sleep. Everyone I ever fought with, every man I ever envied, every woman I ever desired. They've all slipped into the silence of the sea. My wife Sophia went first, then my brothers, then my friends, then, finally, even my enemies. Before they left, they all asked me the same thing. What's the secret, Lorenzo? How did you outrun the shadows for so long? How are you still standing when the pier has rotted away? I used to give them the answer they wanted to hear. I'd tell them about the olive oil, the fresh fish, and the hard work under the sun. And back then, I actually believed my own lies. But after sitting in this quiet house for over a century, I've realized the truth is much heavier than a basket of salt. The men who ate the perfect meals and ran 10 miles every morning, most of them didn't even make it to 70. So, what was the real difference? I've had a lot of time to sit here and watch the dust dance in the sunlight, and the answer has absolutely nothing to do with what was on my plate. A clean body is a temple, but a cold heart is a tomb. I am 105 years old. I pulled nets from the Mediterranean for 61 years. I've seen the tides change more times than I've had hot meals. I've seen 3 generations of boys become men, grow old, and return to the earth. I still wake up every morning at 5 o'clock, even though I haven't owned a boat in decades. I still make my own coffee, strong and thick as mud. And I still sit in this same wooden chair I carved for Sophia in the spring of 1955. The chair across from me has been empty for 15 years. I stopped moving it. I like to imagine she's just down at the market, about to walk through the door and complain about the price of lemons. People come here all the time. Reporters with their notebooks, young doctors with their fancy white coats, neighbors who are suddenly terrified of their own reflection in the mirror. They all want the list. What do you eat, Lorenzo? How many hours do you sleep? What vitamins do you take to keep your skin from turning to dry parchment? I give them the list because it makes them feel safe. I tell them, 3 olives every morning, real bread dipped in oil, fresh fish twice a week, wine that tastes like the earth, no pills, no powders, no artificial miracles. And yes, a piece of dark chocolate when the sun hits the horizon, and a glass of grappa when the winter wind rattles the shutters. They write it down. They smile. They leave happy, thinking they found the secret map to forever. But they miss the whole damn point. Nobody ever asks the questions that matter. Nobody ever asks, Lorenzo, what kept your heart beating after everyone you loved was under the ground? They wanted a recipe for soup. I wanted to give them a recipe for a soul. Diet is a religion for the miserable, and miserable people don't live long. I learned that because of a man I'll call Dr. Harris. He was a wealthy man who visited our village every summer for 20 years. A nutritionist. He knew every calorie, every enzyme, every hidden toxin in the world. Listening to him talk was like listening to a judge read a death sentence. He never touched sugar. He never missed a workout. He treated his body like a temple, but he treated his life like a prison. One day, while we were sitting by the harbor, I asked him, "Doctor, what's the real secret?" He looked at me with eyes that looked like they hadn't seen a sunset in a decade. He said, "Lorenzo, eat clean, sleep deep, and avoid stress." I asked him if he did all three. He was silent. Then he whispered, "I eat perfectly. I sleep okay. But the stress is the only air I breathe." Dr. Ayres died at 71. I sat by the water and thought of him on the day of his funeral. He had all the knowledge in the world, but his spirit was tired of the war. If a healthy list could keep a man going, he'd be here today. It couldn't. His heart just gave up because it had nothing to celebrate. Retirement is just a slow, polite word for death. I only understood that because of Sophia. We were married for 62 years. I was a good husband. I worked, I provided, I stayed loyal. But Sophia used to look at me across the dinner table and say, "Lorenzo, you're sitting there, but you're still out on the boat fighting the waves. Come home." She was telling me that being alive isn't the same as being present. When I finally retired and sold the boat, I thought I'd be happy just resting my bones. But I spent the first year just waiting for the end. I was a man without a tide. I was a retired fisherman waiting for the clock to run out. If you have no purpose waiting for you in the morning, your body starts preparing to shut down. The soul needs a why more than the body needs a what. One morning I walked out to the small patch of garden behind the house. I saw a weed near the basil and I pulled it, then another. 2 hours later, my fingernails were black with soil and I was out of breath, but I felt more alive than I had in years. Sophia stood at the door and just watched me. She didn't say a word, but she had that look, the look of a woman who had finally seen her husband return from the sea. I had found a reason to get out of the chair. A purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be a legacy. It just has to be a reason to open your eyes and feel the floor beneath your feet. For me, it was the garden. Later, it was my morning walk to the pier. These small, embarrassingly small routines are what kept me here. I've watched men retire from their jobs and their purpose at the same time. They sat down, and their bodies followed the cue. They had stomachs full of organic food, but they drifted away because they had nowhere to go. You have to give yourself a reason, even if it's just making sure the cats are fed, or watching the light hit the old stone wall at 4 o'clock. You have to decide that today still matters. Longevity is a tax you pay in the currency of grief. The hardest part of living to 105 isn't the aching bones or the dimming eyes. It's the morning after. Sophia passed 15 years ago. The morning after she was gone, I woke up at 5 out of habit. I went to the kitchen and I made 2 cups of coffee. I put them both on the table and I sat there. I stared at those 2 cups until the steam stopped rising and the liquid turned cold. I couldn't drink mine. It felt like I was swallowing glass. But I couldn't pour hers out either. I sat there for 3 hours as the world moved on outside my window. And in that silence, I realized the day wasn't going to wait for my broken heart. I had a choice. I could stay in that chair and wait for my own heart to stop, or I could find a small reason to stand up. So I stood up. I went to the garden. I pulled 3 weeds. I walked my 20 minutes. I came back and I called my son Marco. We didn't say much. But we talked. And in that ordinary heartbreaking day, I found just enough why to make it to the next morning. That is the only real secret I have. Every single day you have to find a reason. Your wealth is measured by the fingerprints you leave on the people you love. My son Marco is 78 now. He lives in the city 2 hours away. He called me last year and said he'd visit when things settled, when his work was done, when the house was quiet. I told him, Marco, I am 105 years old. You come now or you come to my funeral. Your choice. He came that Saturday. We sat on the porch for 6 hours and we talked about things we hadn't touched in 40 years. We talked about the storms at sea and the things a father forgets to say to a son. Having your people close isn't a luxury. It's a vital nutrient. We need each other's voices to remind us why we're still here. Luck builds the house, but intention keeps the roof on. Part of living long is luck. I was born with the olive skin of my father and the strong heart of my grandmother. She saw nearly a century herself. I was born with good bones. I could tell you it was all my own doing, but that would be a half-truth. And at my age, I've got nothing left to protect. You get the body you're given, but you choose the soul you inhabit. I've seen men with the best genetics rot from the inside out because they were full of hate. I've seen men with weak hearts live forever because they had too much love to leave. I woke up this morning at 5. I made my coffee. I went to the garden and stood there and felt the sun on my neck. I put on an old record, something Sophia used to hum while she cooked. I sat in this chair, looked at the empty seat across from me and said, "Good morning, my love. Eat real food. Move your body until it complains. Keep your people so close you can hear them breathe. But more than anything, stop just getting through your days. You can make it to 105 and still have died 40 years ago because you were waiting to arrive somewhere. The days aren't in your way. The days are the whole thing. The olives, the coffee, the weeds, the empty chair. That's the gold. Don't wait until the room is empty to realize you are at the best party in the world. The light is moving across the rug now. It's 4 o'clock, my favorite time. Go live, please, while you still have the breath to do it.